Welcome to the Agent Effect. I'm your host, Paul Jarratt, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Krogh Andersen, who heads up Telstra's technology and product group. With a global career spanning executive roles in Europe and the Asia Pacific, Kim is at the helm of Telstra's technology transformation, leading its push into the next generation networks, AI, cloud, and digital platforms. Welcome to the pod, Kim.
Thank you so much, Paul. A pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I'd love just to explore with you how Telstra is leveraging AI agents, Gen AI, and automation technologies so that others can learn from your journey. But before we get into that, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to Telstra.
Yeah, as many things in a career, Paul, it was a bit of a coincidence. I have a little bit of an unorthodox background. I started in the Danish Army, where I was for 13 years, and then after a few posts in Iraq and Afghanistan, I decided now it was time to move on. So
wow,
it was in the Army I got my education, also my technical education, and then after that I started in Telenor Denmark, and now Telco, and then after a few years in Denmark, I became the CTO, and then I moved to Asia after that and was operating across Telenor's 6 countries in Asia, and then back in 2020, it was pure headhunting, and Andy Penn at that point, the CEO of Telstra, he needed a person like me, and I quite like Australia and like Telstra, so that was a good match. So yeah, like many of these moves are happening, it was never planned, but I'm very happy to be in Australia and also be at Telstra. So yeah, it's been a good one.
Fantastic. And I hear you spent some time in Copenhagen as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, no. Luckily enough, the TM Forum is in Copenhagen, Denmark, so it's always good when you can combine getting to one of these forums where we discuss the industry more broadly, and then combine that with visiting friends and family. And we actually still have a house back in Denmark, and now I have one of my daughters on boarding school or sports college in Denmark. So yeah, it's good when things can add up, and you can make the space for both connect with your heritage in Denmark and then do some work in Copenhagen. And it is important in this fast moving environment of technology at the moment that you keep connected, and especially I would say when you live out here in Australia, because it is a bit disconnected to some degree, and if you are leading tech to stay connected to all regions, of course US is critical, but there are also interesting things happening in Europe, and both within the telco industry, but also more broadly. So I always ensure that I spend enough time externally to ensure we try to keep Telstra on the forefront of the technology that is moving so fast at the moment. So it have always been a priority for me in my career, and I think right now have that growth mindset and learning mindset and adapt new knowledge fast. I think that's probably one of the most critical capabilities as a leader and executive in a company that want to progress.
Well, let's talk a little bit about generative AI, because that's the heart of everyone who's listening is how are you implementing generative AI at Telstra, and how did you first kind of come to realize that it's going to be successful for you?
Yeah, but it's interesting because as many other companies that have a technology heritage as a telco, we have that analytic, automation, data, security, all the things that is enabler of good AI today. That's not new for us. We've been on that journey for a long time, and actually even before ChatGPT and the whole generative AI took off, we have already created a joint venture with a company called Quantum here in Australia, which was the AI company in Australia, and that was really to somehow ensure Telstra get on the forefront. And that was before that, and actually before that as well, we had a strategy inside Telstra. We called it T25 at that point. Just concluded that in that strategy, we set back in 2022 an ambition to have all our core processes enabled by AI. So you can say we have been on the journey a little bit longer than us. But when generative AI really took off, it was obvious for us that this AI more broadly will redefine how we do business across the entirety of the company. And some of the principles we really thought about in the beginning was, it's moving so fast, so let's not start as we have done with other technologies with small experiment on the side of the business. Let's identify our biggest pain point and start looking at how AI can be used here. Then the other thing that was important for us that we knew from all transformations we have done, digital transformation, etc., and it's even more critical for AI, I think, is to make it a whole of business strategy, not a technology strategy. And we just announced our new strategy a few weeks back, Connected Future 30. And some of the things that made me really proud there was I was the only one not talking about AI. All my peers, the CEO of the company, etc., they were the one that really talked about how AI will somehow redefine their part of our business. And I think when you get to that point, and you more from a technology point of view, somehow orchestrate how we use the tool, how we ensure the data is cleaned up, how the foundation is in place, how we have an agentic architecture as well. All these things, you're more orchestrating and ensuring we do it in a sustainable and efficient and with the right governments in place. So I think for everyone that want to apply AI and thrive in AI, it's about ensuring it's a whole of company, and that needs to come from the top. And both our board and also our CEO, they're very engaged into ensuring Tesla become an AI first company. And to ensure you have that pool, some of the things we did early on was really to take both our board and our management to some of the places where this is moving faster. So that's of course US, where we went both with management and the board. Been there a few times. We've also been in Japan and Korea, just to ensure that everyone understands how fast it's moving. So you'd rather have a board and a management that are impatient and set high expectation to you as a tech leader to bring it forward, then you would have people that somehow are resistant because they don't understand. So we really spend a lot of time to ensure we lift the knowledge and the capability in AI across the entire business. Yeah. And we also do something we call the Tesla's Data and AI Academy, and that was really to ensure we lifted that literacy across the company. And there is personas for all the different domain expertise inside Tesla, but there is also for the leaders. And yeah, even the board, we have training for them as well. And we've just embarked on creating agents for the board so they can be more efficient in it as well. So it's really a whole of company exercise. But we can come back to, but of course we have also identified where is the biggest value pool for us, and that's again in the core of the business. But whole of business and then lift the expertise across the business, and I think that's good.
Well, I mean, you mentioned agents. Let's dig in a bit deeper there. Like when did you first come across agents, and like how personally do you define an agent? A lot of people have different kind of descriptions about what an agent is. Like what's your view?
That's a good question, because I think a lot of people now talk about agents. Many of the agents people refer to as agents, I would rather call them bots still. Okay. Because in my view, an agents, that's when the agents do active works. And I don't know if my definition is there's probably some official definition. But for me, when you move from general AI, which for me is all the things we do when we create agents and we create bots and general AI, and I'm fine to call that an agent as well. But the definition for me is when the agents do active work for you. So that's where we're working both with Cognizant on their AI foundry for our software development, and we also have the joint venture with Accenture as well, where we use their AI foundry, and that's really to ensure we can orchestrate the agents we are applying in our business. So in that framework, we have what we call utility agents. That's agents do a specific piece of work, but then on top of that, we have orchestrator agents that somehow take and orchestrate the works from different utility agents, and on top of that we have super agents. So that's the framework we are trying to establish inside the company, because that was one of my concerns. If you don't have a framework, if you don't have an architecture for your agents, then it would be very difficult for you to scale in a sustainable way, both from a risk but also from an efficiency point of view. So to get a good framework in place, unfortunately, a lot of especially telcos and a lot of industries, they never managed to get that framework in place upfront when the digital era somehow come, and then they ended up with a lot of complexity, and I want to ensure we can scale in a sustainable way, so get in front of that curve. And we have done that with even the generative AI use cases, where we have been very clear. We have a register, and every AI use case is in that register. It's go to the counter of risk and all the things we are ensuring, from cyber to risk to ethical things. We have a committee that somehow go through all of that to ensure we really have the scalability and industrialize AI. And of course, we can come back to that, but the data foundation is just so critical for them. And it's critical. We could see it when we applied some of the generative AI. One of the first use cases we really have was in the call center, where we have what we call Ask Telstra. Ask Telstra is a knowledge bot to put all our product manuals and process manuals, and we have more than 2,000, and our frontline employees, of course, can't access all of them. And when we then applied that knowledge bot to all that insider knowledge, that was a big pain point, by the way, because of course you could imagine you have so much, and the frontline employees will rely on that. So one of the pain points they shared with us in the engagement score was that the access to knowledge was poor. And we could also see that now when we have that knowledge base in place and have that mod, we have increased our first time right, our efficiency, and the quality of the calls, and that's really critical. But one of the things we learned was there's a lot of that data that needs to be updated and cleaned up, and that was just the first realization for me. You can't just deploy at scale before you have done that excellence of your processes, your data, and all these things. And then that was important for generative AI. And I think you can do a lot of POCs and pilots, etc., on AI use cases without necessarily having all your data cleaned up and in good structure and good lineage and all these things. But I can't see you can really scale in a sustainable way without getting the data foundation cleaned up. That was important for generative AI. And I'll just say for Agentic, that become even more critical, because we can see it now. If we have agents or even generative AI that rely on real-time data, and these data come out of sync, then the agents will not take the right decision, etc. So to ensure that data foundation is industrialized and really somehow exposed as a service or data products that these agents can consume, either via MCP or via APIs, that's critical. When you have that in place, then there is somehow very few limitations to scale both Agentic and generative AI. But that's the foundation. I think many companies, because they are still piloting, they have not come to the realization how important it is. But we are scaling generative AI, and we are embarking on the Agentic. And we do that in many parts of the business. We do it in the infrastructure, in the network part of the business, in the software engineering part of the business, but also in our customer engagement part of the business. So it's so clear for us. We really need to accelerate that data foundation, and we are using known framework as the lakehouse from Databricks to really ensure we have that data foundation in place. And it's also a way to be efficient, because I think some companies will get a surprise on their compute cost and storage cost and software cost if they don't get these things right from the beginning.
So you get your data in order, obviously, at a time. You also touched on context, though. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about context, and how do you go about making sure you're giving the agents the right context?
Yeah, no, no. I think first of all, we are not done with the data. But we have created a foundation now.
Okay.
We started with more than 100 data platforms in a company like Telstra. We brought it down year by year by year. Now this year we will get down to 15. We expect to get down to 3, and really ensure we have that lakehouse architecture in place. Across, we will have AWS, Microsoft, and then we'll have one on our private cloud. So with our network data, etc. So we really ensure we get that in place, but we have still more work to do. But it's something you can't just wake up one morning and then say, I now want to have the data in place. That takes time, because it's linked to simplification up to your application layer, even up to your product layer, up to your process layer. So you need to have that simplification done to be efficient in an AI era. That's at least my perspective. When it comes to context, I think it's very critical, and both context and expertise. I think our philosophy is that our job is to ensure that every single subject matter expertise inside our company, no matter if you're a group executive, You're a software engineer, you're a network engineer, you're a call center agent, you are whatever you are inside the company. Our job is to help each individual to apply as much AI to their subject matter expertise as possible. That will make Telstra good, but it will also ensure that specific individual will differentiate as an individual, and the function these high performance individuals are in, they will thrive. Telstra will thrive, and in the end, Australia as a nation will thrive if we really ensure that is what's happening. So that's really where you combine the AI with the context. The context is normally coming from the subject matter expertise. So the standard operating procedures we have, and what really is important for us, it's important that the agents or even the general AI bots, they get that context, because that context, that's somehow the boundaries for which where in this AI is operating. And I think that's critical, and we are still working on how to do that in the best, most effective way. Because a little bit, we talked a lot about quoting in the beginning, how you put a good quote, and we still know that if you're good at coding, you'll get a better response. That's no matter if it's with GitHub, you're trying to code, or you write code, or you do it in just Copilot or GPT, whatever. The coding is important. I think the context is similar important. So we have a big program moving from BI to AI, so move away from static dashboards into a more AI and more dynamic AI-driven report performance management that is driven more out of AI instead of traditional fixed BI. We have more than 10,000 reports and dashboards inside the company. We want to reduce that and be much more dynamic in that and use AI to do that. That's one example, because if you can't just open up everything. You need to have some context in there and some standard operating procedures. What is you asking for, and where do they get these data, and all these different things. So I think context is important. I think data lineage stewardship is important as well. So really to ensure the data owners, they really own the data. They ensure the data is correct, the quality of the data, but also to ensure we clean up data. We don't have unnecessary data. I think all these things really have data excellence. That's become critical if you want to scale both generative AI, agentic AI in a sustainable way. And another thing where I think we're really testing what's possible now, to be much more MCP driven than we traditionally have more be API driven. I think that's a good, the MCP layer is a good way to orchestrate again for us to be agnostic downstream to the LLMs, but also have more control of our data feeds, etc. So we also ensure that our AI and our generative AI and also our agentic AI is built into our overall technology architecture. So we have a Telstra's reference architecture model. So really ensure that we capture AI in that as well. So it's not become something on the side, but an integrated way of our architecture and the way we orchestrating our business. And that's probably where we move from, where AI fuel and we put AI to existing processes. Now it become somehow organic by design into the way we build our products, into the way we do our job and our processes, etc., and the way we report, the way we go on, the way we performance management. So I think that's really when you come to that AI first mindset, and it takes time. We're not there, but yeah, even this week, I said to my team, we need a step change again, because it's keep moving. It's keep moving faster, and we have probably seen it a little bit. And I encourage people to test and try and test that. Now it's become a prerequisite to compete, that we actually not just playing with AI, but really ensure it's really into our roadmaps. It's really an AI first mindset to our products, both the way we build them, to the way customer can consume them, to the way they search for them, all these different, to the way we assure them, all these things. AI need to be first. So again, you cannot be complacent here. You need to have that, learn it all, push yourself, and train. The other day, I asked, I fell out behind on the GitHub, and because so I invited one from GitHub to come, and we coded a health app for me, just to ensure I test again how good have it become, because I know it move all the time, and I don't have the luxury to sit code with GitHub every day, but really to see what each of the tools we already have are capable of. That helped me drive the organization forward and set the expectation of what we should achieve with these things, and also coach and mentor our people to keep having that growth mindset, because we all know when we're busy, it's difficult to shift to something new because it takes time to learn how to do it. But to create the room, the expectation, and also the space for people to ensure they embark on the journey, it's not an option to just sit back and wait.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, what was the kind of the aha moment for you when you heard about agents, or you came to see agents in action, and you thought, hey, we need to jump on that immediately. What can you talk me through that a little bit?
I can't remember that moment, but I'm lucky enough, and that's of course a privilege to so I remember when we looked at how we consolidate and created a more partnership approach to our SIs that were supporting us on data and AI. So I met with all the SIs, but I also met with all the product companies in the US, and I saw that it was moving to somehow agents that could do the job instead of just advising and giving feedback. And I also somehow that asked Telstra, when that becomes so good that it actually gives the agents the right answer when they ask a question, then it's not difficult to imagine that the next step of that would actually be that it's not only giving the agents the feedback, but potentially do some of that task
doing the task too
autonomously. So it was a combination of meeting all the different thought leaders out there, and then see some of our own use cases get to a point where it was obvious next step that, and even in the network, we have back to something called self-optimized networks. Sun, back in the time, I remember the discussion between closed loop and open loop, where it gave an advice to a network engineer versus somehow do the job. And I think that was, I came to that realization on the knowledge bot in the call center. We were very close to be able to sometimes close the loop and say that the agents could do the job, or the bot could do the job. That was never designed to be an agent. But just the fact that it come to a point where the answer is so good that the agents trusted, the human agents, that belief, then we are not far from being able to translate that to an agent that can do some of the work for the agents instead of just advising the agent. So I think it's a combination of our own matureness, my own experience from when I was leading network back in Denmark, and then I would say especially the AI foundry Accenture have, but also the AI foundry that the Cognizant have. And Babak, he was really a thought leader here as well, and what he have done and what we are testing now in our software engineering together with Cognizant, that both for testing but also for software development, and see how we can move from legacy to the strategic environment, etc. Take old code and all these things, and start really utilizing not only GitHub, etc., but really take agents to the next level. So I've been privileged to both see our own evolution, and then meet and see some of our strategic partners, how they embark on this journey. And I would say, Paul, I think there is not a silver bullet with AI, and no one have a silver bullet how to apply AI to your company.
Yeah.
We are all having that balance point as well. Are we moving too fast or too slow? We have that belief that expertise increase the likelihood of you taking the right decisions and moving with the right speed. And I think that's why we set up the Telstra AI Academy, because that was a way for us to bring knowledge in from academia, from partners, etc., into that credential framework, so we lift the literacy of everyone. But it's definitely also the partners we surround ourselves with. So we early on, we had deep relationship with Microsoft, and they of course relying on OpenAI. We work with AWS, we also work with Google. So we have all these big partners. Then we have these deep partnership with Infosys, Cognizant, and Accenture when it comes to software, also AI. So, And then we have Quantum here in Australia. So surround yourself with expertise. And then the two other things I'll say is diversity. I think because there is an ethical aspect of AI and a human aspect of AI, and one of the ethical principles is to make it human, and therefore to surround yourself with diversity as well. Diversity have always been important, but I think for AI is even more important. And then the last thing, diversity and expertise is only valuable if you have a culture where you listen to expertise, listen to diversity. So I think the whole culture around us learning, that look beyond, learn every day, but also ensure we have an open mindset to listen to people and listen to the expertise and diversity we have in our team to ensure we move not only with the right speed, but also in the right direction with the right guardrails. That have been critical.
So maybe we just step back. So you talked about, agents doing things, and that was kind of an aha moment. Like when you think about autonomy with agents, and putting your trust in what they're doing, like how do you go about designing governance or safety frameworks? Like what's your approach to that at Telstra?
Yeah, we have a very rigid governance process inside Telstra where we have take these experts from cyber, from privacy, from data engineering, from AI, and also some subject matter experts in there, and that's really the forum that assess everything we do within AI, and that then have the cyber policies, the privacy policies, and also the data and AI policies and ethical policies as well. So it really assess all these. It's also have the registrar. It's also where we do the other thing, that's the value framework, to ensure we're going after where the value is, and we are able to measure the value we provide with AI, because of course there is investment involved as well. But I think to your point, we don't have fully autonomous agents yet. We are still in a situation where we are testing agents and we have human involved to oversight these things, and I think that will be the case for some time. Yeah. And it's more important for me we do it right and we have something that is sustainable and can scale, then we create one agent that is perfect. So I'd rather ensure we do these things. So now we are testing, and we will test more in our call center and backup house. Some agents we have in the infrastructure part of our business, in our network part of our business, and definitely in the software part of our business. So that is probably the biggest area where agents are tested at the moment, but none of them are autonomous yet. So we are monitoring them with humans. And when I'm out there, I think that's the case for most companies. That's the matureness level we're at now. But it will definitely move fast. And yeah, I've been surprised to some degree. I'm surprised how fast the tech moving. I don't think it's the tech that is the limitation here. I think it is that foundation work with the data, with the processes, to have the guardrails, the context, the standard operating procedures. If you have these things in place, you will need these things in place to be able to somehow ensure the agents stick within some boundaries, and that it's necessary for you to have very good operating excellence, both when it comes to these processes, when it comes to these data foundations, etc. So it'll take time before we have the full confidence that they can be autonomous, no matter where is in the organization, and we'll keep monitoring them, control them, and ensure they do exactly what they intended to do. And then at some point, we will probably change that control mechanism, but it will be deploy, iterate. It was what we learned with that first asked the use case. It was a lot of deploy, clean up, because there was some feedback loops. Deploy, clean up, there was some feedback loop. This manual was not updated, etc. So we kept doing that. It more or less 12 months before it was at a point where we could scale to all our frontline employees, because there was so much of that operational excellence that need to be in place in the back end. And I think that'll be the case for many agents as well.
Yeah. So I guess this is fascinating. I wonder if you could perhaps just sum up, just for all the CTOs, CIOs listening to this conversation, if they're starting out they're at the beginning of their agentic journey, like what advice would you give them? Like if you had to give them 3 pieces of advice, like
Yeah,
what would it
I
be?
think, yeah, first of all, with AI more broadly, not only make it whole of business,
Yeah.
that's critical. Data foundation is a no regret move. So to clean up data, get the right data quality in place. You don't need to wait until you're perfect there, but it's a no regret move to go very hard on that. And I think we as CTOs, it have been a little bit invisible in the past why that was important. But with AI and the cyber and privacy risk we all need to mitigate, it's a no regret move for all these things to go very hard on cleaning up data. I also think have a very clear strategy for where you store the data, where you compute the data, because it'll be important from an efficiency point of view. Otherwise, your cloud consumption will probably
Yeah.
bring you in a position where it's difficult for you to ensure return of investment.
Yeah.
Same when it's come up to the software. So have good control of what you do on each layer and don't get in logins with anyone.
Okay.
So that's my two. Then I think number three is there's philosophies that I go fully open source. I do everything. I customize the large language models. I want to have access to all tools. I think you need a hybrid because in some cases you need to move with pace and you need to put out tools for everyone in the company because you can ask them if they use AI today and more than 50% would say yes. And if you have not given them the tool, then they just use your data on a non-certified tool. So rather give them some tool behind your firewall where you can control a little bit of what's going on. Because to just say you're not allowed to use AI, forget it. That's the same to say to the school kids. In school, they can't use AI.
Yeah.
And good luck with that. So ensure you give access and create that literacy for the entire company. So if I put them, it's really whole of business. It's about the data, then the expertise. So really ensure you give everyone access and you have that credentials you're building across all the personas in your company. You need a value framework so you can start measure the benefit from this. And then I would say you need to have top-down priorities, which are the biggest value pool, and at the same time ensure there is some bottom-up use cases that you support as well. So if you have these things in place, then I think you're in a good spot. Then we talked about before the culture and the diversity and these things. To ensure you do this right, I'll add that to the list. But that would be some of the things. That's some of the things that we have been focused on from day one. But no matter if you like it or not, it's very clear for me. Start now. This is not something you can wait and see and then just buy yourself out of it later on, because it's not the tech; it's the whole change of the company.
Yeah.
So you need to get on the journey early, because I'm afraid you otherwise will be behind forever. So it's not an area where you can catch up easy, because it takes time to get all these things right. So get there now and get there fast and have that learning approach to it, and also maybe the last thing, really you need to operate with conviction.
Yeah.
And you need to ensure that your board and your management all see what's possible, so they can see to not do this as not an option, because we're very used to create a business case and have very rational decisions. If you don't move with conviction here, even before you know exactly what the outcome will be, then you're by default behind.
Yeah.
And you can't catch it. So you need to challenge your normal decision making, Paul, to ensure you don't get behind. That's my feeling. And I think that's what you can really learn out of the Valley as well, because I think that's what they historically have been very good at, where many other places in the world you've been very good at rational business case decision. And I'm afraid if you only apply that, you'll be behind.
Just 2 final questions. You mentioned open source. Like, how important is that for you in your role, and like, what value does it bring to your company?
We have built up a quite good expertise in the company, and we also surround ourselves with, as I mentioned, Infosys, Cognizant, and Accenture, and of course they are not selling licenses, so they're more open for these models as well. We test it all the time. We ensure we pick the right partners and products and solutions. To get space, we have really relied on the Microsoft Copilot. So we have all our people getting access to some kind of AI tools, and the most progressed and the most widely spread, that's Copilot, and that's really to ensure we had a tool like that behind our firewalls, etc., so we can ensure we have some control of how people use that. But we are using open source as well, and we also want to be agnostic. We don't want to rely on one partner or one large language models. I think it's important you have a variety of partners and large language models, etc. But at the same time, if you just want to have all the best tools out there, then you can't control the cost and the security and the time and speed to market as well. So I think you need to find that good balance between having different things, but at the same time also move forward with pace with some of your partners.
Makes sense. So final question, as a Brit, I have to ask, rugby or cricket? Or both?
It's interesting. Yeah, I am from Europe, so I'm grown up with soccer. But here in Australia, I really love the Aussie rules. So the AFL is my sport, and I am a massive Sydney Swans fan. So
well, I saw the Bulls. Yeah,
but I like all sport, but I must admit Sydney Swans and AFL, that's number one in Australia.
Fantastic. Well, I'll have to catch the next game. Kim, it's been great speaking to you. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. Appreciate it, and all the best. We look forward to doing more and more with you.
Thank you so much, Paul, and a pleasure to meet you, and have a good weekend.